Hello, cuties, and today we're going to read some high schools, university, college, just anything that involves students, professors, and teachers for our Reddit story today. And I know this is a relatable topic for everyone, I think almost everyone at least, so let's dig right into it. The first story comes from Malicious Compliance, and the title is Malicious Compliance by the Professor, not the Students. Okay, so here's the story. Most of these university-related stories come from students. This one I experienced was orchestrated by the professor. The class was conception of human existence. I was so lost. I like classes with facts, and it had not been a required class, I would never have gone near the subject. First test I got a C minus, and I learned nobody got a lower grade. This was a nominal sign that I was in trouble. I just could not absorb the vague, nebulous concept being discussed. It was like getting a test question: does our worldview affect the world or is it the opposite? And being told my answer was wrong. How the heck should I know? So, anyway, complete and total frustration. Around the halfway point of the semester, our prof, Mr. R, was about 10 minutes late to class and came in just at the point we were all getting up to leave. He asked us to sit and said it would be short. He said he had just left a meeting with department chairperson and had been denied tenure. You could not, you could tell he was angry about it. The class was dismissed. The rest of the term, our classes were just chatting about topics in the news, no actual assignments to do, and I'm left wondering what can do to pull up my grade. With a week to go before the final exams, Mr. R let us know that they had to do a final exam. Oh, shocking news. Great, should I have been taking notes during our classified chats? What the heck are we going to be testing on? He explains that he did not get tenure, he is leaving the university after this semester. Our final exam will be a take-home essay, and we can choose one of the three topics. First, our feelings about the war on terrorism. Second, our feelings on the American healthcare system. And finally, if we don't like either of those topics, we can make up our own question and answer it. If we're doing it in anything that shows effort, we'll be given an A. He has to be able to defend his grades and just don't turn in a two-sentence piece of crap and then gets worse than A. Put in some effort, get a guaranteed A. He was doing this for all classes he taught this semester. That was his malicious compliance for being turned down for tenure. We did in fact all get A's. I heard later from a student aide who worked in the office that the department I had was so mad about it, but didn't think he could do anything about it. Edit. Thank you all for all the kind readers for the awards. Okay, let's be honest. I don't think it's malicious compliance. It's petty revenge because malicious compliance is when you take a rule and you bend it just enough, like take it literally. It's like malicious compliance because you comply with the rule to its word, to a letter, but it's not something that everyone expects. It's like asking a person to buy fruits for a fruit salad, and technically tomato is considered a fruit, but no one expects you to buy tomatoes. But you still buy them, so it's malicious compliance. Some of the comments. Anyone who says that the professor was inappropriate isn't taking into consideration the fact that the class was all about conception of human existence. We all either exist or we don't exist in many different ways, and sometimes our relative existence is totally dependent on random, like a quantum events, and the experience and the students hadn't discussed will send them well for years to come. This was very confusing, but I kind of understand philosophy, so I guess it can be understood. And also comment, I thought this was going to do into an 80s inspirational movie where every student wrote about why their professor should get tenure, and then everything turned out around for him. Oh well, poor guy. Yeah, it's not in movies. In honesty, it would probably be great, but if you have to like reinforce your students for them to write an essay for you to get a new tenure, it's a bad workplace for you. Another one comment. As someone outside the USA, the concept of tenure baffles me. Someone replied, tenure is not a USA specific concept. Well, maybe not USA specific, but I have yet to encounter it. Another one replied, it's crazy, isn't it? The whole concept of just giving someone a job for life just seems mad. Yeah, I get it. It's not a perfect system, but I get it's better than just getting your professor fired. Yeah. And another comment. This isn't malicious compliance, it's more malicious tantrum. Someone replied to that a bit closer to malicious compliance was a professor who gave us a mock quiz as a midterm and another as a final. He was returned and, as the head of the teachers' union, had no love for the administration, no the rules system on midterm and final exams. The class was solid and I did a hell lot more research on these essays for the class than in others where I had to study for exams. Plus, you never know when you need to be able to freehand draw as Asia. I don't know what. Yeah, I guess, yeah. It wasn't malicious compliance. No, I don't think so. And as a commenter, this just a shitty professor anyway you slice it. You are paying to take those classes to learn. That's where his paycheck comes from. It was unconscionable for him to deny you that opportunity. Yeah, okay. Teachers like this may be students' favorite or a funny memory to share on difference they Reddit stuff, but they're terrible teachers. There's a reason this professor did not make tenure in the first place. Tenure, to an extent, protects professor and indicates faith in their profession and judgment. This is why there is typically such a long probationary period before it's granted. Tenure, protecting this man, that's been nightmare waiting to happen, and the school knew it. And this is no way malicious compliance as far as I can tell, as I have absolutely no idea what instruction he was given in the meetings that he was compliant with by doing this. Now, if a student turned in a document with only two words, some effort, copied and passed it over and over and demanded an A, taking it to the department head to justify the grade because of the professor's shitty instruction, that would be malicious compliance, because that was the instruction and there were no other actual success criteria given. Yeah, I actually disagree with this. Yeah, no, someone replied to this comment. College is one economic market where customers are excited to receive less of the products that they purchased. Another one replied to this. Class cancelled today, you say. No makeup session, you say. Keep my money, bitches. I'm sleeping in. Yeah, students really love someone canceling on their own product in order to turn the money. And the professor was a shitty one because, yeah, I think no malicious compliance by the professor. This was just a petty revenge, and the student paid for that. Okay, next to the next story. This story is titled I Don't Want to Distract My Classmates, in quotation. This is a short story, so it will be quick. There was a girl at my high school who wasn't in my grade, but in one of the same classes I took. She had some type of cancer or tumor. I didn't know the specifics, but had to have a couple of brain surgeries, leaving giant scars all over her head. She lost her hair from the medication as well. She just wanted to experience high school like everyone else when she felt well enough to go. I remember her being so excited after a big shopping one weekend. The next Monday, walked into home's room with some big bright Dolly Parton hair. She looked awesome. You could tell she felt so good too, which is what mattered to us. This was a doable hairstyle if you had a couple hours and lots of patience. So it wasn't like Miku hairstyle, I guess. Miku hair, yeah. The, the teacher wasn't having it. She tried to explain. We all tried to explain as much as possible without getting too in her business. The teacher wouldn't listen and demanded she take it off, not hearing us all trying to explain the contest situation. We were all mad for her. She just smiled, took it off, and sat back, ready for class. The look on the teacher's face. I think she said something along the lines of, I don't want to distract my classmates with my new hair. I'm sorry. The teacher couldn't focus, just kept looks in her place and staring at her. The giant bright rice cars. We could not, we saw she was beautiful anyway. My nails fast went to the principal before the bell ever rang. The teacher had to apologize and said she was exempt from the rule, what rule we never found out. She just smiled and said, but I don't want to distract my classmates in response. The teacher left after months. The teacher is a crybaby who was scared off. Like, yeah, she did something wrong, but she don't run away just after this. Maybe she was fired and that's why she left, but I don't think she did. Some of the comments. I'm glad the teacher left. You all were kind to your fellow classmate. Well done. Yeah, well done, kids. Someone also shared their experience. I had alopecia, so was fairly bald when I was in school and lived in floppy brimmed hats. We had a cover teacher come in one day, and the first thing she did was snap at me to take off the ridiculous hat. I was never not one of the popular kids, so was rather chuffed when almost everyone in my class started shouting her down. She muttered an apology and it wasn't brought up again. Good for your friends, shame on her. Yeah, it happened back at school with me often too. When one of the less popular students were in trouble, somehow the class who hated them or disliked them or just weren't they not informed they were before became such one wall that just defended that student. Like, wow, children are strange, but they are nice sometimes, except for when they're mean. Anyway, next story. Our next story is from malicious compliance, and the Dudley's teacher wouldn't listen, so the entire class complied and he got fired. So here's the story, and it's a long one. TLDR. At bottom, this happened in the early 2000s in my junior year of high school. The district had just built the third high school in our city, and most of the teachers were new. The band director was one of those new hires. He was qualified for the job but had zero people skill and was extremely abrasive to our students. He had previously taught university and could not wrap his head around the fact that high school students are not college level music majors who live in practice and rooms and write symphonies in their sleeps. I don't think college levels music majors write symphonies in their sleep, but okay. His common behavior consists of berating students for not knowing university levels curriculum, talking down to everyone about how he can't understand why they were so incompetent, and stopping rehearsals to go on long tangents about things that had nothing to do with music. Every day, at least 2 or 3 students would leave class in tears. They complained to the higher ups and they repeatedly brushed it off. He made students hate attending his music class, and many dropped band and orchestra as a result. One of the classes he thought was supposed to be Intro to Music Theory. For those who don't know music, this would be a class that should typically teach things like different types of chords, the definition of music symbols, the logic behind the keys changes, etc. At the first class of the year, there were about 25 kids enrolled. Most of those were music and drama kids who wanted to be teachers or performers in the arts of the one day. On the first day, he handed us a quiz because he wanted to see how much we knew. I think there were maybe 3 5 kids who were able to attempt a single question in the quiz. No one got a single answer right. That's how advanced it was. Imagine signing up for what you think is a basic pre-algebra class and welcome into advanced calculus. This teacher spent the entire class period berating us for not being prepared when no one could even attempt his quiz. We told him this is an intro class, none of us have learned anything like this before, and his response was, "Really? I thought this was an advanced class." The next class period there were maybe 15 kids enrolled. He did the same thing, asked us to perform something we can even understand, and then berated us for not being prepared. At every class he would say, "I thought you all were musicians, this is supposed to be an advanced class." By the end of the second week, there were about 6 students left enrolled in this class, including myself. He softened it up slightly for those who us who stayed and seemed to think we were his prize students and said this was his class of elites, seeking Professor Slughorn from Harry Potter. In trust, he also thought he was insane and cruel, but 6 of us had sufficient music background and experience to understand a fraction of his lessons. If there was a bell curve, we all would have failed his class. A few months go by and we are at the end of the first semester. But now every student connected to music in school hated this guy, and repeated complaints had done nothing to fix the problem. The admins filed away every complaint, but never did anything more than remind him that he is supposed to be more kind to students. He changed nothing and still berates students and makes them cry. So when it comes to the final exam for his theory class, he decides that he wants to give it to us early so that on the day of the final is supposed to be scheduled, we can have class party instead. Of the 6 of us left, 6 of us have the same period of his class together as well. That was class AP English, and we were prepping for the AP test. We had no problem with the class part in music right before the AP prep exam, so we didn't complain. The day comes of our music final exam, and after we finish the test, he tells us that for our class party, he wants to take us all to breakfast at the new IHOP that opened 20 minutes away. His class was first period. I tried to tell him this sure is his plan. We weren't allowed to leave campus without permission slips. It was a closed campus policy due to an incident where a student who left campus before lunch got hit by a car and was killed. will not get back in time for second period, which is the final exam. He doesn't have permission to remove us from the campus. What if there is an emergency and we are unaccounted for because we aren't even at school? His solution was to tell us after the start of his class on our class day, he would be going to IHOP, and if we wanted to join him, that was our choice. But if we didn't, would have to stay in the classroom and not bring attention to to next that there was no class and no teacher. We started talking about it to each other, so this was so an opportunity to finally get the admin's attention to the conflict. This requires this teacher had for rules and policies. We made sure to inform our English teacher that we might be late for the class on the day of the finals due to class trip for our music series. She was irritated and reminded us that this final was very important and that she would not give us extra time if we came in late. We told her that we understood and gave her details about where we would be and what we would be doing and who we would be with. She said she still expected us to be in her class. On the day of the final, we all went to IHOP. It took forever to get there because of construction and forever to get our food because the restaurant was newly opened and had a large number of customers. We got back to the schoolhouse through our second period class. That means they were waiting for us. Security was waiting for us. My English teacher had called the front office to complain that four of her best students were missing and that she was fairly certain we were even on campus. That means had checked attendance and since that we were all marked present that morning and that they searched the entire school looking for our class. The four of us walked into our English final to a leave teacher. We knew she was pissed at us but couldn't punish us beyond saying we had the same remaining time as the rest of the class, since we had been with the teacher in our absence. No one else did as well in the final as we could have if we had the full 87 minutes, but we were doing well enough in the class where this the lesser marks didn't affect our overall grade too much. Still, the band teacher had a private, in quotation, reprimand that was so loud the entire school could hear it. He was confused as to why the administration was upset that he took minor children off campus without permission or notice, without proper school transportation, or even a good reason. He stayed with his usual attitude, but this time towards the admins, why are you guys so incompetent about this? They're old enough to try it. What's the problem? The English teacher, who I actually adore and was one of the best teachers I have ever had, absolutely went mama bear on the administration about how they could continue to employ someone who disrespects as a was a teacher so much as to deprive his students of their final exams and put them in potentially dangerous circumstances. He lost to drive the access to the restaurant, and any accidents or medical issues would have been at the school's fault. He was fired later that day. Many of the students had a gleeful but confused reaction, since the six of us weren't talking to anyone about it. All most of people knew was that this tyrant of a teacher was gone, but didn't spread the story very much of how it happened because we still feared being reprimanded for our involvement, since he technically gave us a choice to go with him or stay. But I always smiled when people gossiped about what the final straw was what got him fired. Jar Jerk teacher told us to leave school with him for class party. We complied and the district fired him. My god, this was a long story. My throat hurts. Okay, first of all, I believe all teachers, all musician teachers are absolute jerks because well, I had only two music teachers that like mandatory subjects in school. One really kind of, I think she hated kids. Maybe not, maybe yes. But she used to like threaten students to write mean words on their foreheads, and our homeroom teacher was just not along. And yeah, let's do it with red paint. And like back then, I thought well that kid should have been quiet, and now I think, gosh, they shouldn't be allowed near children. That's awful. And everyone kind of called her, I think it was like the demon with a lyre or something like that. Anyway, she was called like a house bomb. And the other teacher, he just didn't teach us. It was our last lesson. He would just say, yeah, here's the homework. Bye. So yeah, we were happy back then, but now I think about it, he didn't really care about any of us. Well, I don't think he really should have cared, but at least worries that someone might be run over by a car. Yeah. Anyway, more on the subject of sick, like, look, administration. You look at the students enrollment, yeah? 25 students wanted to learn the subject. There's only 6 of them left. That means 19 students couldn't handle this. can understand 10 people dropping out, just not their interest. But 19, well, that's I think that's a red flag and a warning bell. Um, and taking students outside of the campus, what do they run over? Like literally, someone he would be responsible because it was during his period of time. He was supposed to be looking over them. They were supposed to be in the classroom at the time. Thankfully, no one got into any accidents. One of the comments. He didn't like he did well at the university level either, and something like this is going to blackface him, hopefully, so he doesn't traumatize more kids. Yeah, I don't think this would actually fly well with university level students. Maybe university level, like maybe 30-year-olds, they would care. I don't think they would be better behave with this guy, but I think they would tolerate less and they wouldn't run to administration to complain. They would do something about it themselves because they're all grown ups. But I don't really know how that works because yeah. Um, Another comment. One of my hobbies through life so far has been music. I can imagine being a complete beginner and having someone try to test you on advanced theory. I still barely know much of it myself, let alone 5 years ago when I was in high school. What the fucking tweet of a teacher? Someone applied. When I was at school, I tried to dip my toe in music a few times, but the teachers always gravitated towards the kids with prior knowledge and left me feeling like I missed the boat. Oh yeah, I always felt like I wanted to try learning music, but anytime I would like bring up the subject or try to insert myself with those music lessons, I would get like really pushed out because it feels like I missed. Like I should have started at 5 instead of I don't remember how old I was, maybe 15. I tried to like apply for guitar by myself, and they just they just ghosted me. I kept like knocking on the doors of their classrooms. I tried to like messaging them, but yeah, these old parents I didn't couldn't do anything. Anyway, to this comment someone replied, now you can find some practical tutorials on YouTube for starting. Highly recommend Andrew Feelings, a series on both sounds and design and music theory. And the comment I sent them. Okay, let's go to our next story. Okay, this story comes from ProRange, so it will be, I hope, very satisfying. And the title is less so satisfying. Teacher tells me I am lying about my mother having cancer. So here's the story. This is a long one with TLDR at bottom. This was in my 11th year of high school. My computer class had a year-long substitute teacher because our amazing teacher was out for a year working on a government contract. Our previous teacher was outstanding. He had 6 different classes in our classroom, all happening at the same time, which were computer replay, programming level 1, programming level 2, networking level 1, networking level 2A, and level 2B. He would give a lecture for each of the classes on a specific day of the week, programming on Monday, repair on Tuesday, and so on. We would all work in our own groups, and everything went quite well. The next year came around and I found out that we had a sub for the year. I had 2 back-to-back blocks in this class because I was doing 2 courses. I went in after the class to see what kind of teacher we were dealing with, mainly interested because I was almost certain whoever the phone did not have credentials to teach at least half those classes. The teacher was a foreign woman that none of us have ever heard of before. For the purpose of the story, we'll call her Mrs. S. I went and followed my friend to tell them what I had seen. We were all optimistic because, from a very short conversation, she seemed quite informed and had a good background. It didn't last long. On the first day of class, Mrs. S introduced herself as a programming teacher who had been in school for 4 years. She wanted to tell us about her programming experience in Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Access. She then told us the programming students would not be doing the Java and C++, of course, we had signed up for, and mostly be doing database and Excel because those are what she learned, and she said, and I quote, they will be more useful than C and the Java. She also went on to suspend all at lunch clubs because she didn't think high school students could be trusted with computers alone. What a douchebag. Understandably, some of us were quite upset about that considering that we came here to program. She also did not give their repair people or the networking people any kind of support and completely stopped their lectures as well, preferring to let them figure it out themselves and self-teach without giving any of the resources to do so and occasionally throwing out the test pre-written by the last teacher for her. This continues for about 2 weeks till one day she came in and say irritated that we would actually be doing the Java now unless we wanted to keep doing database. So we switched to Java and she basically left us to try out to drive from there. Because she wasn't teaching database anymore, she came to harass people in computer repair. First, she told us the shop room was too messy and made us throw out 90% of our training workstation and equipment because they were not important in her eye. Equipment that did not belong to the school but actually belonged to the old teacher. We took home what we could steal for safekeeping, but she did end up throwing out a few thousand in equipment. Oh my god. Then she started imposing stupid rules on us, such as you can't have the computer on while you are troubleshooting inside, because you could electrocute yourself, or you don't need the case open to troubleshoot motherboard lights, or my personal favorite and the most scary. Maybe you should change the power supply to 240 volts if you aren't getting enough power. Yeah, it's almost more scary than troubleshooting while inside. I followed most of her stupid requests as much as she could because she threatened to lock us out of the lab room and give us on the textbooks work if we didn't. Needless to say, it was a challenging time. One student in the networking area got fed up and started doing up his own coursework and lecturing to us so that we could at least get some kind of use of the courses. To his credit, it was all very good, but Mrs. S had the ball to force him into doing it from there on out and then turn around, giving him low grades for not getting his own work done on time. A few months of this very uneasy balance go by, and my mother comes down with colon cancer. I have already had a handful of other family members soon taken from me by cancer, so understandably, this is a very stressful time. I was talking with my friends and trying not break down over the whole thing. I had a very unstable laptop running Linux that would crash if you look at funny, and had a horrible habit of corrupting the OS when the battery died because the research shutdown sensor didn't work anymore. Battery always read 0% but would go for an hour or two. While I was working on the school desktop computer, I had a few pages open and that I was taking notes in a Facebook tab so I could keep in contact with my mother because she was in surgery and I was waiting for her to come out. Look over and the teacher is looking through my laptop, opening folders and closing windows, and eventually pushes the power button in till it shut down, which also usually curbs anything that I was doing. The following happened. What the hell do you think you are doing? S. You shouldn't be on Facebook or writing notes on a personal computer during class time, especially when your grades are sleeping. Thanks for bringing it up in front of everyone. It gives you no right to touch my stuff. You brought a hole, you didn't just group everything. This laptop breaks easily. Yes, then you shouldn't have it out during the class. Keep the tone up and I'll see you get attention. At this point, I'm trying just to keep calm because if I get too emotional, I have a tendency to explode. This is often made worse because of my mild autism. I took a second replied in I took a second and replied in a calmer tone. I'm sorry, I'm just having a hard time at home right now. My mother was diagnosed with colon cancer and I am waiting to hear back. And this is the part which really set me off. As you don't look like a kid whose mother has cancer. Quit making sub-story excuses. Are you fucking kidding me? It took every fiber of my body not to stand up and slap that bitch right there. I gave her the dirtiest thousand-yard stare I think I have ever done, but also tried to not burst out crying. I spoke to nobody for the rest of the day until I got home. People kept asking if I was okay, and I ignored everyone. My mother was out of the hospital and home by the time I got there. I broke down crying and told her about my day. Her face was comforting, but you could see the fire of an angry woman behind her brown eyes. She told me not to worry and that it would be okay. A few weeks passed and I was called into the office for a one-on-one parent-teacher conference someone forgot to tell me about. There are all the teachers I had that year, good and bad, my learning assistant teacher, the VP, and the principal himself. They told me that we were there to discuss my grade slippage as soon as my mother came. My mother was about 10 minutes late, leaving me to awkwardly sit with all these people. She comes in and is all smiles. Sorry I'm late. I got late at the hospital. Someone, but I'm not sure who, asked her why she was at hospital and if everything is okay. My mother answered in her happy way. Mother, I was just getting my cancer checked on because I have cancer. The woman called and her voice suddenly dripped with blood when she said it. My computer teacher went pale and everyone in the room was given confused. What on earth did you do, Luke? My mother proceeded to relay me coming home crying about how I was treated to her 1% while Mrs. S tried to become one with the wall of the small meeting room. She kept it short, but to paraphrase, added the following. Mother, how dare you say something so careless to my son? I hope you are ashamed and I hope you don't get invited back for another year. She then turned her back to her normal happy house and discussed my grades like nothing happened, while how the teachers were still trying to figure out what just happened, and told them that now she was out of the hospital, my grades should improve again. She sat quiet about time and tried to suppress bursting out laughing. After that day, she never directly spoke to me again. Had instruction relays through other people, gazed into the class as a whole. She did her damnedest to be nowhere, damned best, like damnedest best, to be nowhere near me and say nothing to me. My grades improved quite a bit, and the year ended with me passing. Mrs. S was previously offered the job at the school as a secondary computer teacher, but after all the trouble, the job was pulled back. The next year, when our first computer teacher returned, he was furious to learn most of his equipment and personal books had been thrown out. We returned the things that he snuck during the purge, but he still lost a few thousand in personal teaching stuff. The school paid him back with 10,000, but he says he lost so much more than that in time and press set handmade equipment. We told him all about the horror show, and he gave us all an extensive test normally given at the end of the year, which the vast majority of us failed. Then after reviewing all the computer courses from the previous year, because in his words she didn't teach us the basis. The sub can no longer teach in this or the neighboring districts. Yar, shitty year-long sub fucks us all over, tells me I'm faking my mother's cancer and destroys another teacher's personal property. Gets ripped into by my mother, which all my teachers and vice principal and principal president loses opportunity to work in my district or any student for being unprofessional and not knowing her subject, forcing everyone in her class to retake the next year. Oh my gosh, that was alright. First of all, fuck the teacher. Who's the hell does it? Like, come on. At least, I can understand when you're not believing someone, not trusting someone. But when the whole student's body tells you that the things you're throwing out are the previous teacher's personal belongings, and you know the teacher is planning to return, I expect you to at least now not do the shit that she did. Oh my god, I never had such fucking teachers before. I mean, I had some insensitive teachers, but never that bad. Some of the comments. I was so satisfied to see this bitch lost chances to choose several schools. Someone replied to this. She can teach laws. She shouldn't be allowed anywhere. Literally, every single human is capable of getting cancer. Why would you assume that someone doesn't look like they have mom with a cancer? Maybe the dumbest person I have ever heard of before. Good story, glad she was dealt with. I mean, yeah, there's no certain vibe to anyone who has cancer. Like, if someone goes through treatment, they can have some visual signs like, lack of hair or some other signs but not their family members. They can be just depressed, and it can be depressed for anything. You can't just have the vibe of some kid who has a mom with a cancer. To be replied to that, a long time ago, someone told me this: people who can work teach, people who can teach gym. Funny enough, the person who told me this was a gym teacher. I mean, this person tried everything, so they know what they're talking about. Um, Okay, so another comment. Fucking brilliant. I had a college professor that I eventually got canned who taught our class, and I was said in my absence that my car accident was a lie and that the old funny police report I showed him, it was very real, was a terrible fake I made myself. That and he failed me purposely because you are an arrogant, disrespectful child in my country. Women do not question their professors. How is that only women? Or ask questions at all, or expect really technical instruction instead of being taught to read our textbook glossary aloud in choice in college. Ah, the department head I had a meeting with him to discuss this nonsense. A woman. Boom. Upi replied, lol, I bet he wasn't ready for that. And the commentary replied, oh, he knew. He just said the same shit in front of her too. I have never seen the mouth of such stoic woman drop so low in shock before. She apologized for assuming I was exaggerating. And the last commentary that I will read at no point did anyone think to tell principal that this lady changed the class we all signed up for. She refuses to teach us. Or this new teacher is asking us to throw out all this equipment, but the old teacher personally paid for it. This was extremely frustrating with. Most schools are now skill the kids argue over seat changes, and you tell me the entire class, full of multiple classes at the same time, had not one person who even thought about of complaining or arguing about this? Maybe I missed something by accident because no one else seems to be wondering about this. I'm astounded this sub even thought she could get away with it. Do not actually teach the class you worked hard to teach and get away with it because not one single person said a single word? She had to have been the dumbest person to ever try to teach. And the luckiest since she stumbled on one giant class that never got complained ever. But we replied to this. We did complain, which was the whole reason she allowed us to switch to back to Java. As far as equipment goes, we did complain, but the teacher made the point it's all trash, which is what a bunch of intentionally broken hardware looks like. The school believes the teacher caused the new because they knew about as much about as she did. Yeah, incompetence is a bad thing to have in your administration and in your teacher. Actually, another comment. I had some teachers like this. They compensate for their incompetence by being nasty or enforcing some kind of arbitrary high level of discipline they know will generate infractions, so you're always on the defensive. Your supervision tried not to get in trouble, you're not questioning her inability to teach. The shitty thing about it is when you're young, you don't really know better, and I think a lot of shitty teachers get a pass because of it. Nowadays, I work in education as a CYS admin. I had a CIS instructor not too long ago send out an all staff email blasting me because the MS system was guaranteed our own staff's email, quarantining our own staff's email. And also, the great one that the CIS department has the usual central IT, i.e., my department, are all idiots, attitude, and they try to steal the rules whenever possible. So it turns out his coworker, another CIS instructor in literally the adjacent office, has set up his own email server and put everyone in CIS on it. So was effectively spoofing our domain's email address. CMS were rightly going to quarantine because they were failing several spam phishing checks. All this was plain as day if you looked at any of the headers. But nope, he sent out an all staff email and this didn't get quarantined. Oh my gosh. So I applied with my own old staff email where I dissected the headers in a ILI5 way and basically embarrassed the shit out of him for not knowing something we're so remedial. Then I informed his coworkers, who is also a piece of shit, that his broker email server was against policy and blocked all SMTP traffic on his BLAN to make the point very clear. They could still use emails that connected to the exchange normally, that pitched a bitch that they needed CMTP for testing and to connect to their other account outside of work. Boo fucking who bitches use webmail. And the peer replied, wow, sounds like some of your courses are not the nicest people. Oh, so I definitely not if there's what it's spoken of them. Okay, that's everything for the story. This story is also from Revenge, and the title is Discourage and Humiliate Your Students Will Get You Fired from Your Alma Mater. I'm going to preface my long-winded story with a PSA. Don't study music in college. If you're truly passionate about it, there's plenty of cheaper, less stressful ways to pursue your dream. Hell, most majorly successful artists now didn't go to college or dropped out anyway. Anyway, my revenge story. I was inspired by Fat, Angry, Orcs post about his student teacher in high school. By the way, I tried to look up this post and it was deleted and it wasn't anywhere archived, so probably without it. I was taking piano course to fulfill an elective for my major and because I needed something easier amidst my course load. I studied private piano for 12 years prior to college, and this particular course was geared towards music majors who played all instruments and weren't familiar with the piano, string, brass, winds, etc. Our professor was a jazz pianist who let everyone call him Tony. Tony was awesome and super chill and patient about everything. This class was going to be an easy A for me, no problem. One third of the way into the semester, Tony announced he won't be able to continue teaching the course. I forget the details, something about his role with the music conservatory, blah blah blah, and a new professor will be coming in to take over. We are sad because we knew we had locked out with Tony, but we didn't think it could get to bad. Tony's replacement ends up being a graduate music ed student of a conservatory whose primary instrument was, I think, classical trombone or something. She was much younger, and I think this was her first real teaching job at the university level. I was willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. One thing we did in this class was call up with other students on our respective keyboards, full 88 key keyboards with headphones so it wasn't cacophony of noise, to play duets for the class. My partner was also an experienced pianist, and once we played through the piece once, we'd start dicking around and changing it up a bit. Changed the instrument on the keyboard to a plucked bass and muted drum for its swing and syncopate to the rhythm instead of playing it straight. Musician stuff. We decided we do present to the class that way. We will last after all the others do struck through their performances, which is understandable because again they are not pianists. Because we knew we'd get a laugh. And we did, and we even got applause. After each performance, the prof would give us some praise and critique right in front of the whole group, start on musician stuff. Well, the new professor did not appreciate what we did to the piece. She was disappointed that we didn't play it how it was written on the page, and I quote, did not want us to get the creative with it. Not only was I embarrassed for being yelled at in front of my peers, I was livid. My partner and I had perfectly demonstrated our ability to perform the piece flawlessly, and we went the extra step to show how the piece could be interpreted. A crappy 16 bar with Teresa had perfect potential for syncopation and jazz interpretation. And the boy in the assigned district in the cave were allowed to get creative. Something I generally expected was, well, expected of music majors. What was music be now if men like Bach, Mozart, and Beethoven didn't get creative? Beethoven or Beethoven, I don't know. Okay, I know this was just one little in class assignment. I was overreacting. But as the semester went on, she was always like this, discouraging interpretation, humiliating students if they were struggling, overall brought a negative cloud of energy that killed whatever joy Tony had previously brought into the course. Speaking to her one-on-one was useless as well because she always managed to turn the blame back on us or refused to give us extensions if we were back down with other assignments. I spoke to my classmates and it turns out we all hated her. It was a small conservatory that excelled in teacher-student relationship and we were going to let this fly. And these conservatory professors were required to do student evaluation each semester. We were required to write them out day of in class, and the professor in question were allowed to look at them. I'd never really had much to say on them, but after speaking to my advisor, who had recently been promoted to dean of the conservatory, he said it was very important that we express all of our concerns in these evaluations. So when it came to time to review, he and his peers would decide if this new professor issue needed to be addressed. I passed this along to the rest of the class, and boy, did it come in clutch. I have never written front and back on an evaluation before, but Lord, did they have more than enough to say. In fact, everyone in the class was writing front and back. The professor even made a comment in a super nervous voice about how everyone seems to have a lot to say to the dead silent room of furious music students. Someone had even typed out the revelation the night before and submitted it. This how frustrated we were. 2 days later, the last class of the semester, our professor starts by letting us know she won't be returning for the following semester. She gives this little speech about she is sad she fails as a teacher and wish we had come to her about our problems, which we had numerous times. I was trying to the dumbness to look guilty and not laugh, but was failing miserably. I looked around the room and we were all were trying not to lose it. We had really done it. We actually managed to get her fired. Tony returns the following semester to teach the next portion of the course. Yay, Tony is back. Come on, like I think every music teacher either loves or hates their job because I have only encountered a few who hated it. But since Tony loves his job, maybe it's someone who is not so serious about it, someone's not so strict. I know a lot of people that actually like to teach by the book only and you're only allowed the classics. But music is more about creativity, not about like following the footsteps of someone from long before you were born. Music will die out that way anyway. Let's read some of the comments, okay? Shit, crap like this is why I quit orchestra. Don't suck the fun out of the funniest thing ever. Opi replied, I keep the more prestigious chore at this conservatory too because of your same reason. I had been in chorus since I was in diapers, and it was the first time ever I didn't want to be part of one. It's a whole different story, so I, I would like to actually read the story. But anyway, another comment. PSA, don't study music in college. And they replied, can confirm, but I wish I had known this 30 years ago. Oh, yeah. Well, college seems to be like you either study something like I don't know, something you're really passionate about or something you're not passionate about. There's no middle ground because if you're really passionate, you want to get every like the drop of knowledge. If you're not passionate and if you're not passionate about it, you just don't care about the quality of the teachings that they give you, and you're right with everything. Another comment. She had music degree, no teacher training. A recipe for disaster. Well, she was young. Maybe this my opinion. Well, she was young, and maybe she like tried to assert her dominance. I guess maybe she was trying to scare them off into submission or whatever. But I don't think that worked, as you can see. Okay, this one was at least a bit of a fun story. And hey, the cool teacher came back. Yay! Anyway, besties, this was our last story. Stay hydrated, stay safe, and I'll see you on our next video. Bye!